Hello everyone, welcome back to another installment of, effectively, another scary occasion with stories and various other tales that could hopefully scare you senseless, as that is kind of my job here. But nevertheless, today is another occasion, Halloween, and with that, I've brought you 10 scary creepypastas. It is the season after all. And as for the few that don't know what creepypastas are, they are basically the equivalent to modern day campfire stories. If you've been around the channel for long enough, I don't think I should have to explain that. But nevertheless, I hope you enjoy these 10 scary tales, and more importantly, enjoy Halloween as it's meant to be. Watch this video at any time, and remember that most of the entries we talk about here are mostly up to your interpretation of what you find scary, and as well as mine. So, without further ado, turn out the lights, relax, maybe grab a few snacks as well, as we journey into 10 scary creepypastas. The Children of Mirth. This is a story that tackles the deepest depths of insanity. If you ever liked certain artworks that appeal to your mind or genre? Do you like horror? Twisted faces? Well, this story is definitely for you, although I'd recommend that maybe you don't stare at the images for too long. After all, it goes without saying that the human mind is a valuable and amazing thing, but what lies at the back of it? Well, that's for you to answer yourself, and for you to read the story. A few prisoners of war were put into gas chambers during the end of World War II. The prisoners of the what is referred to be a Russian sleep experiment suffered through agonizing gas that would essentially change a person in their behavior. Unable to rest and forever left to stay awake in the darkness of the dingy cage they were locked in. The experiments only became more twisted over time, as the inmates then started to rip apart their own flesh, eating bits of it, organs being variously and haphazardly placed around the room. It was only by the end of the horrifying ordeal that one of the prisoners that remained was let free, and for the briefest of moments, the inmate, barely clinging on to life, spoke these chilling words.
We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all. Begging to be freed at every moment in your deepest animal minds. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you seduce to silence when you go into the nocturnal heaven we cannot tread.
The researcher that was with him grabbed his pistol and shot the creature in the head. The only thing he managed to choke out were his last words, but I'll leave you to read that yourself. Pokemon, a series not really well known for its horror, although, that being said, the various Pokedex entries and other things that are perhaps lore related can definitely set some people off guard if they look hard enough. Arguably the scariest instance of creepy stuff in Pokemon has to be the infamous Lavender Town Syndrome, a frequency that played in the old Japanese version of the original Pokemon games, which were Pokemon Red and Blue, allegedly contained a bunch of frequencies that killed, or indirectly, made people take their own lives. More specifically, the younger kids that could hear the frequency. To this very day, you can still hear the distinctive and creepy Japanese version of the theme song, but if you look on YouTube and you do find the video, view it at your own discretion, as the myth may be true or false. Again, I'll let you decide that for yourself. A young man who, unfortunately, was suffering from a very bad disease and was bedridden never really had the chance to play. He was always sick, and because of that, he had no way to really entertain his mind, except for one person, or rather, small Furby-like creature. His name was Mr. Widemouth. Mr. Widemouth would occasionally try and convince the boy to do dangerous and daring tasks, like juggling knives or jumping down to the bottom of his house from his bedroom window. But he would always say no, even with his fever-ridden sickness. He still had the capacity to know that that was still dangerous. Eventually, the boy ended up growing up and leaving that childhood house where he met Mr. Widemouth, only to return one day and eventually find out why he was so desperate for him to play these very horrible and dangerous games. Psychosis can oftentimes trick people into disbelieving things due to false reasoning. That is to say, of course, that people can empathize. But what if it's all for an ulterior motive? What if you know that you are the only person that's real in a world full of deceit and misleading information? What if your own place of residence is constantly under the threat of something else looming over you, not in plain sight, but hidden? What if you are the only human that remains? What lies behind doors? Doors that specifically should stay closed? That is the question that is posed in the story that I'm referring to. Our protagonist moved into his aunt's home after a tragic accident with his parents. Everything, for the most part, was normal, and he got along well with his aunt. The only rule and expectation she should have for him was to always shut every door behind him, even if the room he was going in was only for a minute. Needless to say, he eventually got curious and wanted to get to the bottom of it. He went down to the basement and the deepest depths of that, finding a small joint space connecting the two houses of her neighbors and her aunt's house. And what was found in that in-between room was always why she shut that damn door. Halo is a game that has its fair share of horrors, whether you're fighting the Flood on Installation 04 or something else entirely, like the disturbing history of the Forerunners. Even then, what would be more creepier than a piece of cut content from the old Halo CE beta, or Halo 1? Well, protagonist in this story follows a disturbing set of events that cause him to view an unintended path and a rather creepy story change. All I can really say is that you really should read the story yourself. Suicide Mouse. This is an all too familiar cartoon about the famous and titular Mickey Mouse, who, unfortunately, was suffering from a severe form of depression. The short in itself was never meant to be released publicly. That is to say, you can still find the lost episode in its short entirety of Mickey Mouse walking down the same alleyway, forever pondering when his suffering will end, or for someone to do it themselves. Fallout is a game well known for its creepy undertones, whether it be the death claws, the mutants, or even the ghouls themselves. The wasteland is a cruel, unforgiving place. But by far, the creepiest part about Fallout 3 is the number station. If a certain few prerequisites are met in the game, a number station will eventually pop up on the Pip-Boy. If you listen to it enough, you can make out distinct stories and distinct logs from assumed people of the wasteland. One of the most disturbing steps, however, is that you must kill Three Dog, the announcer of the Galaxy News radio. Once he's dead, the character's voice actor will say the numbers that basically come from the number station in a monotone voice, not like that of the positive and happy Three Dog. Going back to the stories, however, one of the most unsettling is the one I'm about to read to you right now. I can't believe they've actually done it. Not long left. They were warned, but they just had to keep pushing the boundaries of science. The noise. I can't take the noise anymore. And the light. Dear God, the universe is slowly unraveling around us. I'm not going to wait for death. I have a pistol in the attic. This is actually the only message not preceded by a string of numbers. Ben Drowned is an already well-known story. The story of a boy who suffered a fate worse than death. You can still find the videos on YouTube to this day, and even the full ARG and its breakdowns. I myself have one in the works already, and I plan to release it soon after Halloween. This leaves us with the end of the video, and the last thing I have to say is thank you for watching, and happy Halloween. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.